Hello and welcome back to the workshop. Some friends of mine are having a big clear out at the family farm and they discovered these in the brambles. They've got a similar storage system to the one I've got here. And they asked me if I could make use of them. And yes, yes I certainly will. So what we have here is a bench shear for cutting through sheet material. And this is a fly press. And these are two bits of metalworking equipment that I've been after for absolutely ages. So I'd like to say a massive thank you to Tom for thinking of me with these. And a big thank you to Pete, who rescued this one from a scrapyard, because can you believe it, somebody actually went to weigh this in as a lump of scrap. Tragic. So the bench shear will get its own video in due course, but I do have a job in mind for the fly press, so that's what we're going to concentrate on now. The fly press came with this suitably hardcore table for it to go on. I'm going to need to get hold of a suitably hardcore tabletop for this, but I've got a plan for that. In this video I'm going to refurbish this fly press and get it back up and running. First, let's get it on the bench. I don't know how much this weighs, but my little tractor is rated to lift half a ton at the back and it couldn't pick this up. So we used a telehandler to drop it in the link box, and when we did that the front wheels came off the ground on the little tractor. But I did make it home. The fly part of the name fly press refers to these flyweights, and that's fly as in flywheel. And indeed you can get versions of the fly press that instead of these balls just has a heavy wheel on the top, but either way the principle is exactly the same. These balls are attached to this crossbar, which is attached to this screw, and the screw goes right through the frame of the machine into this ram, which is held in place by these guides. If we look even closer, you can see that the screw thread here is very coarse, and then up here we've got both the coarse thread and a finer thread on top of it, and that finer thread is to allow this collar to be located up and down depending on where you want the machine to stop moving. And then at the bottom of this ram there's a hole to take the tooling. The way this works is that you wind it one way and then you throw it back, and all that inertia that's in here comes firing through and it smacks into the piece with considerable force. How much force? Well, this is a number 6, and that means a nominal 6 tons of pressure coming through the workpiece. I don't know if they still make fly presses, but I do know they're still in use and quite common as well. And I've used them myself in working environments, two very different working environments. One was in a factory, and in a factory setting, the one I used there was quite a bit smaller, and you tend to have the fly press set up just for doing one job over and over and over. So that would be my job for 4 hours, would be say forming a little 90-degree bracket or punching a hole in a piece of sheet metal, something like that. Bam, put it in again, bam, put it in, bam. 4 hours in that, go and have a pasty. Another 4 hours, go home. The other place I've used it has been in a blacksmithing forge, and that's a very different use case, because there, instead of just having one tooling, set of tooling and a jig for one process per machine, you have a whole variety of stuff. And in a blacksmith's forge you tend to use it for doing batch work. So say you might have something that stamps a wavy shape in as a motif in some railings, for instance, and you might use that to stamp out say 100 of those, and then put in a bit of different tooling and make 100 of something else. It's a very versatile bit of kit for doing semi-repetitive work like that. And the other thing you use it for is for general forging, and you can use it much like a power hammer, and that's what I'm going to be using it for fairly soon. So what I want to do is to make an axe, and as part of the hardest part of making an axe, or the way that I'm going to be making it, the hardest part is going to be drifting the eye. So to make the hole for a piece of solid tool steel, that's hard work. And last time I did it over the anvil, and I was going to make up some tooling to do it under the power hammer, but instead I'm going to make up some tooling to do it using this. And the big advantage this has over the power hammer is precision, believe it or not. So you can pull this round slowly and just get it to touch something to make sure you're in the right place. And then you pull it back and whoomph. Normally, as part of this incredibly heavy, solid lump of cast iron, there'll be a number cast into it somewhere which tells you the capacity. Like I said, this is a number 6, but I had to work that out on this one. It doesn't have a number on it. All it's got is William Benson Limited, Nottingham. And I couldn't find anything about this company. So if there's anybody out there that knows who William Benson Limited was, or I think was is the word, do let me know. So at the moment, there's a lot of slop in the mechanism, and there's also a lot of drag in these guides. And I think we can probably tune out both of those. So there's a fair bit of movement there before the ram does anything. I think that can probably be rectified. What can definitely be rectified is the fact that it really drags in these slides here. So that can be sorted out. I don't think it's going to take much to get this back into decent working order. It looks to me like it's been fairly recently restored, possibly just before it was scrapped. What I imagine happened is that some retired chap, spent ages cleaning this up, painting it. It's got fairly fresh paint on it, and all the letters here have been picked out. And then he probably died, and his relatives just binned this along with everything else that would have been in this workshop, which is sad. And that's how I came to have the anvil, actually. Similar sort of story to that. But it's found a good home now, and it can be appreciated and used once more. Yeah. You can see the difference between the threads, the fine thread that's on the outside of the coarse thread. See how much I've got to turn that to make anything happen, whereas this one, so if we wind this up, and then this can come down. Yeah, there. Look at that, oiled bolts, very nice. This does fall in with it being tidied up recently, but the screw at least just needs a really good clean. Half-inch Whitworth. It's the first time I've been able to use it. Oh. I didn't just do that, by the way. If you look at the rust in there, that's a very old brake. Somebody must have taken that off and dropped it on the floor. That's the only way I can see that guy breaking, actually. Yeah, it doesn't affect the operation at all. So now this ram should just pop out there. Let's see what's there. Should have loosened this when the ram was in place, and I could have locked it, but there you go. Hey. Other than the maker's name down on the side here, this label is the only marking I can find on the machine. BRD plant number 2164. If anybody's got any idea what that means, do let me know. Well, there we go. That's everything you need to build a fly press. It really is a beautifully simple bit of kit. Let's clean it up and reassemble it. So I'm not going to polish it, paint it or anything like that. This is going to be a working machine, so I just want to restore it to working order, get it working as good as I can, and leave it at that. Might get an airline on that. Yeah. While I wait for the compressor to charge up, I'll see if I can get these freed off. So these are little adjuster screws, and that's a locking nut to nip up once you've adjusted it. But it's jammed on there. Can't be held very tight. I suspect chucking them in the forge would be the way to go, but I'm going to give them a quick try with this impact driver. If we've got something that fits. I'm sure many of you recognise this, but then again many of you won't. This is an impact driver, a manual impact driver, and when I whack the end there, it transmits that hammer force into a twist. So occasionally very useful. But here of course it all depends how well I can grip it in the vise. Easy. This is one of the bits that I'm most keen to clean up because it's the really old grease that's in here that's stopping it working properly. I use my special parts washer. Mold petrol. So I don't normally paint things up if they're going to be used in the workshop. There just doesn't seem to be an awful lot of point to that. But particularly in this case, it's just nice to be able to preserve the effort that whoever it was that restored this last put into it before it was just taken to the scrapyard. I don't want it to look new, I want it to look cared for and functional. On the ram here we've got these screw holes which are for set screws to retain the tooling which goes up there. Now they're threaded, but this one's got some, I think this has got the remains of a set screw broken off in here, which is probably why this one here has been drilled out. Yeah, someone's made quite a mess of this. Oh, we are making progress. Well blocked out. Yeah, we've got a blockage, you know, there's something in there. So we've drilled through as deep as we need to go, but there's still a lump of something in here. So that's a... this one went all the way through, yeah. So there's something trapped. There's a slug of metal that's trapped in the middle of this ram. That is going to be problematic. That means drilling in this way. So you might be able to see down there's a hint of silver. That is a broken off tool. That's the hole we were drilling, and the broken off bit is just there. This hole went all the way through, so we've got a slug of metal that's probably about that long. And that is the right drill bit. But the challenge is to accommodate both this and this rather tall ram in a not huge pillar drill. There's two things that make this feasible in my eyes. One is that I'm holding it fairly lightly, so if it catches at any point, I just let go with this hand and turn the machine off. It's not going to impact me. Secondly, this machine is belt driven, so if it catches and I'm still holding it, the belt will just slip, as you saw when we were drilling the other hole. So it's not quite as mental as it looks. If this was a gear driven pillar drill, I wouldn't be doing this. Yeah, because in those, if something catches, it's generally the drill bit that snaps, and of course the drill bit this size, yeah, not going to snap. I think we've gone through steel, which are these large bits, and these much finer stuff, I reckon that's cast iron. Good. It's gonna work. I'm almost to the point of wanting to put it back together, but before I do that, I'm going to put it on its table, because obviously it's going to be a bit easier to move while it's stripped down like this. The plan is then that the table is going to slide back and go in this corner here, where the welder currently is. I'm going to put the welder just back a little bit, and then there's a little table here with all the forging tools. I'm going to make a rack on the front here, and that the forging tools can slot into, which will make them a lot more convenient to get to anyway. So the table, I'm going to have to drill some holes in the feet to anchor it to the floor. Also, of course, it needs a seriously hardcore tabletop, and for that, I've got just the thing. As some of you doubtless know, when you go to a scrapyard to get rid of scrap metal, they weigh your vehicle before and after unloading the scrap. And they do that on a weighbridge. So a weighbridge is a mechanism set into the ground with great big steel plates on that you drive over. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because I am actually standing on one of those plates. This is a great big sheet of steel that's about 1 inch thick. It's not something you see every day, so I knew I had to have it, and I knew it would come in useful one day, and today is that day. And it's only been sat here about a decade. Before I clean up that slab, I'm going to drill some holes in the feet here. That steel plate sits on there really nicely, and the whole assembly sits here really nicely as well. I'm happy with that. There is a slight bow in the top, but I think that'll come out when we bolt it down. Also when we put the massively heavy fly press on there. Now of course this is going to be horrible to drill. The key thing is trying to keep it square. I've got a bit of a plan for that. Now when I built this table I used a mag drill to do it. So a magnetic drill that looks a bit like a mini version of my pillar drill over there. The mag drill is a super bit of kit because it clamps on, it's got an electromagnet which clamps onto the thing that you're going to drill through, and then it actually has a little rack and pinion just like the pillar drill that drive through either the drill or the cutting broach. I don't have one of those, so I'm going to possibly make do with using this. So I'm thinking here, if I use my mains drill in this drill stand, if it hasn't completely seized, this should go up and down and at least keep the drill square to the table. I've had this thing forever and I've used it exactly once. It was useful on that occasion, out on a job site. That's better. Splendid. Right, while I'm in the mood for drilling, which surprisingly I still am, I'm going to put the press on here and drill the mounting holes for the press as well. Now the tabletop's sorted, next job is to fix the table down to the floor, and I'm going to do that with some 10mm studding, and I'm going to use this stuff, 2-pack resin chemical fix. I'm going to drag it into position and drill some pilot holes first, and I'm probably going to have to shim it to make it perfectly level because the floor isn't it's not as perfect as it should be. Most of it, in fairness to myself, is okay, but the edges not so great. Anyway, I'll work around it. So like I said, this is a 2-pack, this resin, and unlike normal 2-pack that you mix by hand, this actually mixes in the nozzle, and that's what this plastic helix is for down there. I don't know if you can make that out. So it's only been a few minutes, and that's already hard to touch, and it's hot. So that's it curing. But I'll leave that lot for, well, it actually says on it, this stuff is very temperature dependent. I've used it in winter and it just takes hours to go off. So it says on it here, we've got the gel and the cure times. So it's in the high 20s today. So gel time is 5 minutes, which is why that's solid. Load time 30 minutes, but now I'm giving it an hour. It's been about an hour now, so I'm just going to nip up these nuts and we shall move on. Mostly on. You'll notice I'm not greasing this. I think that was the problem before, that someone had greased it. I'm going to oil it instead with just with engine oil. So these two were in there. I think to put this one asleep. Yeah, perfect actually. It's not tight, which would be bad. It's not sloppy like it was. There you go. So that plate's almost gone now, which is just what we want. So I think these front screws is just a case of nipping them up. The side ones here push in a tad to take out any sideways movement. Yeah. Not much play that way, but there is some sideways play, so we do need those screws in the side. Do that next. That's really nice. all the play's gone. And it's still falling under its own weight. Yes, that's pretty nice. Pretty much the only thing left to finish off the rebuild is to fit the balls back on here. Before I do that, I'm going to take this extractor off. It's not terribly useful anyway. It's not, mostly not in the way, but it's enough in the way, or it will be enough in the way. Needed a rethink anyway. Table's not flexing. Yes, there's no flex anywhere. Which would be wasted energy if you think about it. So that means that if the table's not flexing and it's bolted firmly to the floor, it means all the force is coming through the screw system straight into the workpiece. Whatever he's doing, in this case crushing a bit of 4x2. Good, very good. I've been playing around with a few different setups for where to keep the tools, and this is what I'm going to go with, at least for now. So I had fully intended to make a rack on the front of the table here, but when I cut a piece of steel and offered it up, it just didn't work. Maybe the table was a bit too low, or for whatever reason, I could just see having tools down there, it's just a bit too awkward. So what I'm going with is having all the tongs on that side, all the hammers on this side. And not having the rack on the front means I can get the big arc welder to park under there, and I can keep all the welders in one place, just ready for easy deployment. The leg vise is going to live here. It's still semi-portable, I can drag it around the workshop to where I need it, but now it's got a home base to return to. And I think this layout is actually going to be pretty practical. Remember, I've got two forges. I've got the gas forge here, and I've got the solid fuel forge just out there. And I think everything is within easy reach of everything else, so it's going to be quite practical. Well, that's it for now. I hope you can tell I'm absolutely chuffed to bits with my new fly press. I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into doing some work with it. But of course I can't do any work with it until I've got some tooling to do the work with. So that'll be the next video. I'm going to make up some punches, some hot cut or two, all sorts of stuff. So join me for that. Cheers for now.